Hi, everyone. Welcome to Spill the Tea Radio, where we interview awesome singers, songwriters, and those who influence their lives. Spill the Tea Radio explores the journey, creativity, and inspiration behind the songs. My next guest is the front person for the youth alternative rock band. The show continues in January. She formed the four-member band after performing a cover of Smells Like a Teen Spirit. With classmate Luke Tracy Miciano, their music is a tribute to the passing of a friend and the feeling of a need to get their music out there. So, let's spill the tea with Jessika Pelland, also known as Junker. Welcome, Jessika.
Thank you for having me.
Well, it's a real treat. Your music is exceptional. When I found out how youthful the band is, it certainly is wonderful to know that we have such great music in the works from people that are in their teens. So let's talk about some of the things around your band. First of all, let's talk about your moniker. You're also known as Junker.
Mhm.
You've got a beautiful name, Jessika Pelland, and but you go by the name Junker. Why?
So before I did music, I got a pretty good following around cosplay, which basically means dressing up as fictional characters. And I used to hand make these cosplays. So I know how to sew, and I use foam and hot glue to make tons of really cool accessories. And one of the first cosplays that I made entirely on my own was a character called Junkrat from Overwatch. So it was one of the first cosplays that got recognized as, a piece of craftsmanship that I did because everything else was stuff that I had bought. So people started associating me to that character a lot. And people started calling me Junker as like an online name for, my cosplay persona. And a lot of people that listen to our music are people that used to follow me and my best friend, who is also in the band, for cosplay. So the name just stuck. Everybody was calling me Junker. I had no reason to want to change it.
Well, that's a great story. It's nice to know that the Junker does have a positive connotation to it, as opposed to something else. The other item that I am always intrigued with is to find out how people name their bands. And your band is called The Show Continues in brackets in January, and you've got a really good story around why the band is called that as well.
So basically, when we were trying to come up with names for the band on an Instagram group chat, it was in between two performances. So when we did Smells Like Teen Spirit, it was for a Christmas show. So around like the end of December. And we got to perform it twice. Before the second performance, there was a snowstorm on the day that we were supposed to perform it. So we received an email saying, oh, the show was reported to January. We didn't know this. We were just talking about band names in the group chat, and our guitarist comes in and he says, the show continues in January. And we are all like, where did he come up with this idea? For one, that's way too long. For two, like, it doesn't make sense. It's not representative of any of us. And then he's like, oh, wait, guys, just check your email. Like, I was not on this conversation topic at all. But I'm a very weird, eccentric person. So I was like, you know what? But that was so authentic. That came out like naturally. It's a little bit long, but like there's a sort of ring to it. It's kind of different from everything else. And then for other reasons, as January being the first month of every year and acronyms being a thing like TSCIJ to SKIDGE, we just stuck with it. We decided that it was cool and different.
And what's the acceptance been like with your following? Have they? It sounds like they've shortened it to some initials as opposed to, the full name, which I think it's unique in the way that you never had to worry about anybody else being called that on Instagram or any social media following. But have people shortened it up for you now?
Absolutely. We've gotten so many nicknames, but that's also something that we like because we feel like it creates curiosity. Our producer calls us the show when he talks about us to people. Most people call us TSCIJ. To Skidge is my favorite. I think I'm the only one who uses it,
The
but
sketch.
it exists. A lot of people will call us like that thing in January, or the show continues and then they'll get the month wrong. And I just think it's really funny. It took a while for people to adopt it. I feel like the process goes like, that's the name of your band, really? That's the name that you chose. But because it's so long and weird, I feel like people grow to like it just as much as we do at a certain point. Another really big advantage about this name is it's so long that multiple times on show flyers, people thought that we were the headliner just because our name took way too much space on the flyer.
By the time they put your name on, there's no room for anybody else. Why wouldn't you be the headliner? You have said that you want to get your music out there as a tribute to your friend Sheldon. Tell us about Sheldon and why do you feel it's important for your music to be the tribute to his memory?
We really miss our little homie, Rip, our dear friend Sheldon.
You are very specific, and your message is determined to focus in on specific things that you're feeling or that you've experienced. You mentioned that when people come up to you and talk to you about your music and say, "Wow, how did you know how I was feeling?" How do you feel when they come up to you and what they are experiencing, what they are feeling when they are listening to your music is a variation or maybe something completely different than what the message was that you were trying to get out there.
The interpretations can very much vary. I think it depends on the song, however. There is a song that we've published in Sheldon's passing called Meat on the Bone, which is about my experience with anorexia.
Hmm.
And that song I feel is I would say it's pretty hard to interpret drastically differently than the way that I wrote it because it's very straightforward. But I think some of the most memorable experiences I've had interacting with others is there is this group of young like teenagers that come to our shows, like every single one of our shows with like signs and stuff like that. And there's this young girl who I love dearly. She must be like 13, 14 or something like that. And she sung it with me and she knew all the lyrics and she was like crying. And to me, it's kind of bittersweet sometimes when people share that my songs touch them emotionally because very little of them, especially the ones that I would say are very meaningful, are happy. It talks a lot about like my terrible experiences with mental health. So a way for me to let out those negative emotions. So it's bittersweet because I'm glad that a young audience can find something that they relate to, something that brings them comfort and makes them feel heard. But it saddens me that so many people can relate to the experience of, for example, having an eating disorder.
Mm-hmm.
In an ideal world, I kind of wish that less people would relate to that topic.
Exactly. It's an interesting point that you make. I don't want people to know how this feels. And
Exactly.
but by the same token, you want people to know that you're not alone if you are experiencing this as well. Let's get into one of the songs that Jessika wrote. This song was co-written by Jessika, Clarkson Kate Vu, and Luke Tracy Miciano, and performed with Jessica's band. The show continues in January. Let's take a listen to singer-songwriter Jessika Pelland, also known as Junker, and her song, Patricia.
Patricia, I miss my mama. Patricia, I can't much longer. Patricia, I miss my mama. I miss my mother. I treat you better, Patricia.
That was Patricia by Jessika Pelland. Jessika, tell us, what is that song about and what was the inspiration to write it?
So it is about my ex's mom, whose name is Patricia, and how much I love her. So this was a really difficult song to write because it was about, so when my ex and I broke up, we dated for almost 2 years, so a year and a half. It was my first serious relationship, and it was one that was quite odd. He was a lot older than me. There was a lot of shady things going on there, notably like sexual abuse and, you know, coercion, manipulation. I wasn't completely innocent in the situation, but it was definitely harder for me, I will say. However, there's a reason why I stayed with that guy for so long, despite him being sexually abusive towards me. One of those reasons being his environment was so welcoming to me. I was in a position where I wasn't having the best time in my environment at home, and his environment gave me like unconditional love and support, notably his mom. His mom really treated me like I was her kid. She would always tell me, I know how he can be if he ever does anything to hurt you. Like, you let me know and he will never hear the end of it. And I would cry and she would just like sit there and hold me. I would spend like Christmas with them. She would give me advice. She was such a hardworking and loving woman. She tried to give her son everything. She would work really, really hard, and like they were not very wealthy. She would like stop herself from buying things or from eating certain things just so that he could get what he wanted. And when I broke up with him, that was what was hard to let go of. I was ready to move on from him. I was ready to discover new things, but I realized that I no longer had her in my life. I no longer had the love that she would bring me. And I kind of felt like I had betrayed her, or like I had left her behind with her son that didn't treat her well, didn't treat the people in his environment well, that she seemed really discouraged by. And I was like, I'm leaving her there with somebody who's like not showing that he's grateful for her. So I wrote Patricia in tribute.
Well, unfortunately, sometimes we need to go through those really low points in life to appreciate the really high points in life, which you have now because now you've moved on and you have a wonderful partner that you get to spend a lot of time with and be creative with as well. Jessika, how do people find out more about you and your music? What's the website, socials, and the streaming platforms?
So for me personally, I'm most active on Instagram at Junker Time. So JUNKERTIME. But that is my personal account. What most of my music is going to be found on the show continues _ in January on Instagram, or the show continues in Jan on TikTok. It's pretty easy to find because, as you said before, our name is very original. So there's not really any ways to get it wrong. And we're going to be publishing like 2 singles upcoming, an album upcoming. So those are all things that if people are interested in, that's how you find them.
We have been in conversation with Jessika Pelland, also known as Junker, from the band The Show Continues in January. Jessika, thanks for being with us.
Thank you so much once again.